What is good, everyone? Welcome to the Empirical Scouting Podcast. I am Taylor, joined by my co-host, Taylor. And today we're going to go over an overview of some of our favorite front seven defensive prospects potentially coming up in the 2024 NFL Draft. These are not going to be in any kind of order. So we're going to kind of start on the edge, work our way in, and move into linebackers. But first, as Taylor is well aware of, I am an avid sports car collector. So in honor of our subject today and our first contestant that we're going to be talking about right here, Jack Sawyer. Pulled it out of a $20 box at Target. Nothing too special, but it's pretty cool. So Jack Sawyer, 6'4", 240 pounds. Last year recorded 24 tackles, 6.5 tackles for a loss, 4.5 sacks, and had a pass defended. So with that, I will give you the floor to give your thoughts on Jack Sawyer, and how you're probably going to make me a millionaire with this card I have.
Well, catching me a little bit off guard here, truthfully, but
I knew I would.
Jack Sawyer is I like him. I'm a bit higher on him than what general public seems to be thinking of him right now. The Reddit community is kind of laughed at me when I had him in my top 5 edges for the summer, but the truth is Sawyer, it's a projection with him, but it's also kind of a testament to him being kind of a Swiss Army knife. And I know the Swiss Army knife narrative is not necessarily popular currently after Isaiah Simmons being traded for a 7th round pick. And that was what Simmons was billed as. But Sawyer is interesting because he's got flashes off the edge. He's thick. He's huge for what he is, but he's able to play out of a 3-point stance, out of a 2-point stance. He's able to line up at linebacker and play almost like a spy. He's got the athleticism to do that. He can set a strong edge against the run. He's better against the run than you would really anticipate. He's better against the run than a lot of these guys in this class right now. The thing is, though, he's not the most twitchy type of player. He doesn't have this insane Brian Burns, Jared Verse-esque get off the line. He doesn't really have a pass rush plan. I don't know how developed I would say he really is right now as a pass rusher. He kind of comes off more as a guy that just goes out there and tries to just run fast around the edge or bull rush the edge when he's actually rushing the passer, because he doesn't do that every down right now. So the proper coaching or commitment to it, I guess, I think he could be something good, but it's still kind of to be determined. And it's to be determined if that's how they're going to use him, because they may just use him the same way they used him last year, which is as this kind of Swiss Army knife player, which may stunt his development as an edge. It may end up being he plays linebacker at the next level, depending on his athleticism. But I think he's got talent. He's a guy I would take a lottery ticket shot on in the 2nd round right now, if I had gun to my head if we were drafting. But I don't know if I would be playing him off the edge right now.
Yeah, I mean, I admittedly didn't really watch him too much until I pulled the card last year. Then I was like, all right, let me see who he is. I looked him up. I noticed he was, which now that I looked it up, I do kind of remember the name, but he was a 5-star, top recruit in the nation. Obviously committed to Ohio State, so he's going to be pretty good. And the thing I noticed when I went back and watched was, like you said, he did play inside, outside. I didn't really see him as much as a linebacker as probably you did, but I did notice that he was more of that, all around the line. And yeah, he got pressure, but like you said, it's not like he was, he wasn't pulling off the edge. He wasn't, being like the Nick Bosa or Chase Young or someone else that we'll be mentioning here shortly. But he was just consistently getting some push, consistently setting an edge, consistently being around the ball. Just like one of those guys that's just always there and does the job, but is not popping off the page.
I don't know if linebacker is necessarily the right way to say it. It's linebacker. He's where he's lining up when I'm talking about this, but it's not like he's lining up like at the same depth as these other linebackers are. Like he's kind of like he's a step behind the defensive line, and he's just literally spying. Like, so he's not necessarily like. I mean, Ohio State does have these guys drop into coverage at times too. Like him and JT drop into coverage at times. But yeah, I mean, it's. I guess I am describing that as outside linebacker just because it linebacker kind of. I take that as a role that's anything that's not lined up directly on the line, or at times lined up on the interior because I played linebacker and I lined up basically as defensive end every single play. Like you can be a linebacker without lining up with depth. So it's just kind of a catch-all, I guess.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. So you'd give him, a good shot in the round 2, round 3 range as of right now if you were a GM.
Yeah, I mean, if we're taking this class right now and drafting now, as we know them, what we know, I think I would probably take a shot on him in day 2 if I needed something along those lines. And I think, the athletic testing, without seeing his film this year, I think the athletic testing would be really important for determining whether you want to use him as an edge, as an outside linebacker, as an inside linebacker, if in the right scheme. Like, it just, he does not have the development any one place yet for me to feel confident saying he's going to be this one player or one position, which is good, but it's also, as we've seen with some of these guys come through recently that have had the same thing said about them, it's not good. Sometimes it goes well, like Michael Parsons, and sometimes it goes bad, like Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, and it's just banking on the traits and banking on the ratings. You see a guy 5-star, top of his class with those kind of traits, and if the athletic testing does come out like you say it might, then yeah, it's a guy that I would definitely be like, yeah, Falcons. Day 2, day 3, we could use him. But to transition to his running mate, and your number 1 edge, JT
Formerly my number 1. I'm already backed off of it a little bit.
You already backed off. Okay,
I did already back off a little.
6'4", 277 pounds, 28 total tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovered, 2 interceptions, one of those for a house call, and an all Big Ten selection. So let me hear about your former number 1 overall edge.
It's close between him and Verse. Like, I'm flipping to Verse right now.
I figured it was Verse.
So another one where it was kind of controversial and people weren't happy with me having him at 1 over the summer. And the reason I had him at 1 over the summer is because when I went through my initial watch through Verse, like, I saw what everybody else sees in terms of like the freaky speed and such, but I kind of saw some reps of Verse get bullied in the run game, and then I went and watched JT, and I saw JT hold his ground really, really well, and I think that influenced me a little bit too much. And after like going through and watching again, I kind of I don't want to say like I'm completely flipping on the opinion, but like I'm kind of realizing that my opinion was a little bit too one way almost. But JT, I think people are kind of sleeping on JT as much as you can be sleeping on a guy that was a 5-star prospect that had the year he had last year. Like, people are really like, he didn't do anything besides the Penn State game, which, like,
I was going to say the Penn State game is all you really
like, the Penn State game was great, obviously. And yeah, he didn't have like another game that was like that game. But that's
hard to have another game like that.
Yeah, that's not a game that you expect someone to have every single week.
No.
He shows a promising anchor in the run game, in my opinion. He's got a big frame. He's got good length. I think people are underestimating his twitch. Like, people, like, he's not a freaky twitch athlete, but he's not terrible. Like, he has a get off. Like, he's not going to, run the best 40. He's not going to be the most explosive, like, a long jumper or whatever, or 3-cone time. But I think he's got a decent get off. I think it's survivable. It's not Leonard Williams, in my opinion, if you remember Leonard Williams from USC back in the day. But he has, a good a decent get off. He's got good length. He can anchor decently. He's just going to be a true junior, so he's still developing. And he's, shown glimpses of a pass rush like repertoire, like a move set. Like he's got moves. And the problem though is he doesn't really come with a great plan. Like he kind of just throws moves around not willy. I hate saying that phrase, but he kind
Your
of just
catchphrase now.
he'll kind of just like do one play where he's coming in trying to bull rush, and then the next play he's just gonna try to do like a grip move. Like he doesn't set things up. It feels like, and it doesn't feel like he like sets a guy up and then like comes with that setup and then goes into the inside. Like people talk about tunneling in baseball for pitchers. Where you come with the fastball, and then when you come with the changeup, it looks like the fastball's coming, and then it just drops.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come with the slider, and it looks like the fastball's coming again, and then it just slides away. He doesn't do that in pass rush terms. Like he doesn't try to hit you with the rush, with the rip rush on the outside, and then when the tackle starts oversetting to anticipate that, hits you with the inside move. Like he just kind of comes play by play and will do a random move.
Yeah, it's something I remember. I want to say it's Von Miller. I'm pretty sure it's Von Miller. I remember him talking about how he sometimes sets up linemen throughout a game to be like, I'm always gonna, try speed off the edge, dip underneath you, and then once he sees the tendency of that tackle, like leaning a little bit too far, that's when he hits him with a spin move, go back inside, sack the quarterback. It's things like that the great pass rushers have, where rep 1, rep 2, rep 3, you might not beat them, but you're beating them mentally because you're setting them up for something in the future. And obviously, tackles also know that. So it's that mind game, kind of like you said in baseball. That pitcher knows what he's trying to do. The batter knows what he's trying to do. It's just who's going to catch which guy's going to catch the other one off guard, quicker. But it's something that I feel a lot of guys, especially in college, will do. Especially 5-star top athletes. It's like, I've dominated my entire life. I'm just going to keep dominating without, not saying not putting in the work, but without developing more and more of a plan. I'm just naturally bigger, stronger, and faster than you. And as you get older, it's not the case anymore. So would you say like he just needs to continue to like develop like more of a plan than just using his natural like athletic gifted abilities?
Yeah. I mean, like you can come in with your spin move all you want, but if you just come in with a random spin move and the tackle, isn't leaning either way, like just because you haven't set up anything, like most of the time the tackle's just gonna be like, okay, yeah, spin, I'm just gonna carry you along, like so
just ride you inside and just you're out of the play. Especially like now mobile quarterbacks, just they'll come right outside, and now you just open the whole offense up for them because that quarterback can run for 10 yards, and if someone bites on them, just dump it over them, and it could be a house call.
But I mean, JT, that's something that can be coached. Like the pass rush plan can't be coached typically. So he's just got to have that coaching and kind of start thinking about that and start thinking about setting things up against higher level tackles. And then he's got the talent otherwise to be a productive player for a team. I'm not going to sit here and promise I think he's going to be a dominant pass rush force in the NFL because it's, I don't know if I believe that much yet, but I think he's got the talent to be a first round pick. I think he's got the talent to be a, starter for years to come, in the like 7 to 10 sack range, truthfully, like, which,
if he has,
that's a decent NFL starter.
Oh yeah. And if he has another, Penn State game or two in him in college, then that'll just definitely pop off the page. But with that, we will kind of transition to now your number one edge rusher, a guy I was very high on, a guy you were very high on last year. We both wanted the Falcons to draft him, even though he probably wouldn't have made it to us at 8. But shockingly, went back to Florida State. Jared Verse, 6'4", 260, 47 tackles, 9 sacks, 17 tackles for a loss, a fumble recovery, and an all-ACC selection, of course. So let's hear about the Florida State Seminole.
I mean, Verse is a pretty straightforward prospect to talk about right now. He's got freaky quickness. He's got he's very twitchy. He comes off the ball very fast. You can throw on the first game of the year last year for FSU against LSU. You can see from the broadcasting, even on YouTube, you can see there's plays where he is already out of his stance and trying to make a move before literally any of the offensive linemen or any of his teammates. Like, he is very fast off the line. And he's, you can see there's plays where he just straight up comes into the tackle and pushes, and the tackle flies and falls down. Like, the guy's got athleticism and strength to him. And the thing is, though, he converts speed to power well, and he has this pass rush plan that we're just talking about. There is film where you see him hit an outside move, outside move, outside move, outside move, and then finally the tackle is every time slowly setting more and more, setting up for that, and the tackle finally oversets, and then he just hits that inside counter, and it's a free play pretty much. So he comes with that plan, and he's prepared for it, and he's got freaky athleticism. So what the worst thing about him right now is the fact that he's going to be a redshirt senior when he goes pro, so he's going to be a little bit older. Yeah. But otherwise, the guy is pretty he's as close as you can be to being a blue chip edge right now, in my opinion. Mm-hmm.
And that's I don't want to say
for sure I think he's a blue chip edge, but he's definitely the top edge on my board, and he's a top 10 player for me. So
yeah, and that's the thing that confuses me because last year he obviously flew up draft boards projections. He was going to be most likely a top 6-7 pick in the draft, no matter what. He was even vying for to be the number one edge in front of Will Anderson to some people. Then he decided to go back, and so my question and my thought is: did going back to Florida State potentially hurt him? As he's another year older.
I still don't understand it.
He has. Yeah, I don't understand either, but he's he's going to be another year older. Now he has JT, he has Jack Sawyer, a couple of these guys that we're about to mention here coming up. And I agree, I think he's the best edge out of all of them. I'm still high on him from last year, but it's kind of now he's a little bit more competition possibly, as well as being another year older. Is kind of you're still going to be a top pick. That's not debatable. But did it hurt maybe teams that are going to be in that top 5 range from taking you just because you're another year older, and there might be other guys that could be comparable to you, when the time comes?
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah. But speaking of one of those guys, we'll turn our attention to Will Anderson's heir apparent in Dallas Turner over at Alabama, 6'4", 245. He had 37 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, and a fumble recovery that returned for a touchdown. Some would say that was a pretty down year for the expectations that Dallas Turner had coming into last year. But now that Will Anderson's gone, what are you looking forward to from Dallas Turner in that Alabama defense?
I kind of want to see him, employ or use more moves. I kind of think he seemed really reliant on his natural athleticism and just his hands, but it's great that you're using your hands. Not every edge uses their hands effectively. That was an issue a lot of people have with Kayvon Thibodeau when he went pro. But I want to see Dallas Turner, employ spin moves, rips, and just give me a long arm or something like that. Just give me something to work with that isn't necessarily just you trying to shuck or chop these guys' hands and use your speed to get around them. I kind of want to see Alabama. I can't remember. I don't know if Alabama changed their coordinator or not. I kind of want to see Dallas Turner in coverage less. I don't think he's a great coverage linebacker, which they had him dropping, and they had Will Anderson dropping.
I was going to say they had both of them dropping, and I'm sitting there watching some of these games. I'm like, you need Will Anderson to get after that quarterback, but you're dropping both of them back and not getting any pressure.
Yeah, I don't think he's good in coverage, truthfully, but I don't know. you see the potential of Dallas. Like, he's athletic and he's fast and he's, obviously talented, but I don't know if I feel comfortable, like, even putting him in the same sentence or realm as, Will Anderson right now. I mean,
No.
like, not just Will Anderson, though. Like, I don't even feel comfortable saying he is. I think Nolan Smith was a better prospect last year. I think
Tyree Wilson.
I think, yeah, Tyree probably was. I think Will McDonald was a better prospect last year.
Oof.
So
Okay.
I think Dallas Turner, like, he's decent, but I don't know if I would be jumping to invest a high pick in him right now, truthfully.
Yeah, I just remember his freshman year, games against Georgia, where it was like we would double Will Anderson or had our best tackle was kind of stonewalling him, and then we're just like, oh, here comes Dallas Turner on the other edge of the ball, and it's like, there's gonna be just another one of those great pass rushers from Bama, following Will Anderson's footsteps. And then last year, it was kind of like they both kind of took a decline, if you want to call it that. Not really sure. I mean, that whole Alabama team was just kind of out of whack. I mean, it was a down year, but 2 losses for a down year is pretty, still pretty good for most teams. It was just they just didn't. That whole defense just didn't click.
Their secondary was not good.
No, like, they were slower. They weren't, I don't know. They just weren't dogs. They weren't stuffing guys. They didn't have that attitude that I've seen. Those confident Bama teams just always have.
I think just so weird watching that Tennessee game. Like, this is off topic of the edges, but like, you watch that Tennessee game, and it's just continually play after play. Mm-hmm. The safeties are getting burned deep, by Jalen Hyatt or something like that, and like the corner, like Kool-Aid was Kool-Aid, like he was good, but mm-hmm. everybody else in that secondary just they couldn't do anything in that game, right? Yeah. And it's just that's just so odd with Bama. Like, and even this year, like, aside from Dallas Turner right now, how many Alabama prospects are we really, like? Chris Braswell's a guy off the edge right now that people are kind of looking at. He was a really high recruit. He's gotten some game reps, but he's been kind of behind Turner and Will Anderson, and he's dealt with a lot of injury issues. Is he going to be that guy finally? Are they going to have an interior defensive lineman even be relevant?
That's my biggest thing is that the interior, even back up to like that middle linebacker, like that, that staple guy, captain of the defense, they haven't had that in a couple years. And I think, they used to just churn out defensive tackle prospects like every single year that would go in the first round. But now Georgia's doing that, and Alabama hasn't been doing it as much. And I'm sure they'll return back to form. But I think that's also affecting, the pass rush, because when you don't have guys in the center that can take 2-3 guys at a time, giving one-on-ones to your edges, it's kind of hard to beat them consistently, no matter who you are.
I think, like, when I did my interior D-line preview, I had people ask, like, I'm surprised, why is there no Alabama guys on this list? Like, I'm surprised. I'm like, because the 2 guys that are lined up to be their starters right now had, like, 15 tackles combined last year. Like, they didn't do anything because they were on the field a little bit, but they weren't on the field a substantial amount. Like, and how am I supposed to grade that?
Yeah.
They're going to be 2 like 4th or 5th year seniors, something like that. That, sure, cool, you're going to get your chance to play at Alabama. If you play well, people will take notice for sure. But right now, what is there to notice about you? And it's the same with, like, their linebackers, too, in my opinion. Like, people, like, Deontay Lawson's, like, a name to watch, but, like, I wasn't too impressed with Deontay Lawson's tape. But, like, they got Tim Smith, who's a senior, lined up to start, and they got Justin Boygaby. I don't even know.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember him. He's a senior as well, right?
Redshirt senior.
Redshirt senior, yeah. Because I remember him from last year. Like, that was also senior.
Like, they got a couple guys on the interior that are lined up to start, but do we even think there's anything to really go off of to say that they're going to be draftable players right now? Like,
yeah, no. It's just weird to see right now. I'm sure they'll return to form. I know they've had top recruiting classes, but let's just see. I can't doubt.
This step chart does not look the way the step chart doesn't look the way a Alabama depth chart has looked since we've been in middle school, probably. Yeah. Like, it's weird. I don't have confidence in this team.
No, I don't
But
either. I'm not going to say that they're going to lose. You know, I've seen people say they're going to lose 2, 3 games, all the way up to 6 games. I'm like, okay, I don't know about all that. I could see them losing one of Texas and LSU, like I said earlier today to you. I think they'll pull out at least one of them. And then I don't see them losing. I mean, I think Ole Miss will be a somewhat hard game because that offense is probably going to get up and go. But I think, at the end of the day, they'll pull out the victory. But I could see them losing one, maybe 2 games, but I don't personally see them, falling off the face of the earth.
speaking though of how UGA is turning out defensive tackles, though,
Mm-hmm.
I think people are sleeping a little bit on Nazir Stackhouse on the interior.
Oh yeah, the guy I feel like has been at Georgia forever.
I mean, yeah, and he's huge. Like
Yeah,
he's
I think he's what 6'3", 320 pounds.
let me see if I can find his 6'3", 320.
Yeah,
And I mean, the dude's just a run stuffer right now.
yeah, that's all it really is.
And he obviously he benefited a little bit from having Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith for the games Nolan got to play and
back with Jordan Davis, he was rotated in.
Yeah, but I mean, Nazir's like, you watch him on his own independently, and the dude is he's good for what he's been so far. And if he develops that pass rushing, like, he's gonna be a first round pick.
Nazir, he's just that big guy in the middle, that can just take up tackles, allow your pass rushers to get by. He's going to stuff the run. I mean, he had 33 tackles and 3 tackles for a loss last year, so it's not like he's going to like put up eye-popping numbers. But defensive tackles don't always have to do that.
Zero stacks is the interest, like not the interesting thing, but like the notable thing. And as talented as he is on the interior, doing what he does, like he's very good at stuffing the run. Like his hands instantly find his man's frame, and he goes for control of the frame. And he's got twitch like as much as you can have for a 325-pound dude, but no sacks and no pass rushing upside. It makes it harder for teams to really be like, okay, we want to go out and get this guy. So if he can start producing some pass rush numbers, he's going to be someone they're going to be like, okay, we know he can do the run. He got 3, 4, 5 sacks this year. Like, he showed that upside. Let's go get him because he's going to be he's going to test. I bet he tests well for his size.
Oh, yeah.
Right now.
No, I mean, they always do. And that's the thing is, being, like we said, 320, he's at worst, he's going to be that run stuffer that a team, drafts day 2 maybe, maybe waits till, round 4. But he's going to just take up, blocks for your line, take up men, start putting the numbers in your favor on defense to where he'll give you some kind of input in pass rush, but not too much. But, no, he hasn't really been the guy yet. He's been asked to, at Georgia, what they always talk about, even to Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis's of the world, is everyone does their job. They're not trying to, be super. Each one's not trying to be a superstar here. So if Kirby looks at, Nazir and goes, I need you to take up 2 guys every single play. Don't care what happens. Just grab 2 guys, make sure they put the attention on you and, free up Nolan, free up Jordan Davis, free up, Jalen Carter, free up, Michael Williams. Just do it. So now that he's more of the guy in the interior of the defensive line, we'll see. We'll see if he has that pass rush game because we've always had, that pressure from the inside as well as the outside is, your best friend. That's what we've seen the last couple of years with Georgia. So we're going to see if he has that, especially now that he is the guy because a lot of people thought Bear Bryant would be the guy for the pass rush game coming in, but obviously now he's at USC.
But I mean, let's just talk about the guy that may be next up though in the interior. It's people are on the Jershawn Newton train for the top interior D lineman, and right now he is my top interior D lineman.
Yeah,
but the guy that really the 2 guys actually I'm going to expand it. The 2 guys that people really need to be looking at: Maason Smith at LSU, and then Leonard Taylor at Miami.
Yeah.
Maason Smith unfortunately tore his ACL with like the first drive of the
Mm-hmm.
first game last year. So like he's only had that true freshman year. But you watch that guy as a true freshman,
Monster.
he's insane.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
He is huge. He's like developed like in terms of like he's 6'6", 310 is what he's listed at. And he's like able to play from the nose all the way out to like 5 technique.
I was
like,
gonna say he could get all the way on the outside and still dominate.
But
it doesn't
matter.
Like
I could even I feel like you could even line him up at a wide 9 on plays. Like I'm not gonna do it a lot, but you could line him up at a wide 9 and he could do something once in a while. Like he's rocked up, like in terms of like you can just look at him through the pads and you can tell this guy's jacked to the gills.
And the thing about him that's like my favorite to just like to visually look at, it's like not only is he rocked up, he wears the number 0. And I know you don't like that as much, but for me, seeing a guy 6'6", 310, a monster all across the line, wearing the number 0, just like it just makes him pop even more. Like it's kind of it just looks like he's faster. It just looks like he's stronger. It's just something I noticed when I went back and looked at his freshman film. I was like, man, that 0 makes him definitely look like even more a monster than he already is.
I'm trying to pull up a quick little highlight video because I want people to see what this is. I'm trying to like he's got an insane swim move, and I know swim move is like that first move that like they always try to teach kids like that are rushing the passer, but his swim move is like the quickest, most efficient swim move I can like remember seeing recently. It is so good. But like if he stays healthy this year and like he plays like just to what we have seen him do as a true freshman, or if he improves from his true freshman year, like and he stays healthy, I mean this guy's gonna be hearing his name early on the draft night. Because teams can move past a torn ACL in today's age. So you don't see athletic talent like this every day. And it's the same with Leonard Taylor. I mean, Leonard Taylor, another like 5-star top tier prospect when he came into Miami, and he's explosive. He's got a strong anchor. He can use his length well. He's got the versatility line up all across the line. He's the biggest thing with me for him when I was watching him is like it looked like he just got tired a lot. Like it looked like he would play a few plays and then like how college football is a lot of like that no huddle stuff right now. So I mean I get that you get tired. Like it's hard to keep up with that, especially when you're 300 plus pounds. But at the same time, it's like it's not the greatest to see a guy play like 2 plays and then he's just gassed and has no effort. Like people were dogged on Gervon Dexter last year for something
Jordan
similar.
Davis as well, same thing.
Yeah. So I mean, if he can hopefully improve some of his conditioning and just gain some consistency, people are going to talk about him because he's gifted in ways that not many interior D linemen are gifted.
Yeah, and I mean that whole Miami defense is, if I can understand getting a little gas if you're the guy that needs to try to do everything. Because right now I've just never been high on that Miami defense recently, and I'm not sure if they're going to turn around.
So much talent. Soon. If they're not good this year, something's wrong.
But the thing is like I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's just like their personal willpower. Like they can get all the talent they want, but they just can't ever put it together. And I need to see it before I go, oh, this is the year they improve.
That depth chart on paper, like Tyler Van Dyke obviously had an up and down year, but on paper, this depth chart is pretty good. And if they are not good this coming year, and when I say good, I mean like 8 to 10 wins in that ACC.
No, they're not. Yeah, they're not even going to compete for the ACC. But
like I don't think I'm not saying like they need to go undefeated and or 11 wins or whatever, but 8 wins, 9 wins for that team should be attainable. I don't know their schedule off the top of my head, but like, they have a lot of NFL talent on the team, and if they can't get it done, what does that say about Chris the Ball? Honestly, like, especially like because I thought he was not. I thought he was the most overrated coach when he was at Oregon still.
Yeah, I know.
So
And he was. He definitely did less with more.
Yeah, I mean, I've yelled it nonstop from a long time now. Justin Herbert against Stanford in his junior year or sophomore year, I can't remember which year it was, is one of the most impressive displays of like a quarterback hitting throws in tight windows that I've ever seen in my life. And this guy's offense had people doubting Justin Herbert could like be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, but understandably so. Because like as you know, I watched a lot of Oregon as well, and like Herbert just never seemed comfortable at all ever in that offense, and just like it seemed like watching him, it was more Herbert's decision making and like just not understanding where to go with the ball and feeling the pressure and getting kind of nervous. But then you see him walk into the NFL and immediately be like a top, at that point top 7, top 8 quarterback, now probably higher. Like then you start going, if he could do this in the NFL, it doesn't matter against what teams. What was he doing against the Pac-12 defenses? At Oregon, it's like, why was it like that? And then you start thinking about it. You maybe go back and look at it, knowing that he's actually a really good quarterback. And it's like, what was that offense doing? Or what kind of scheme was that?
He threw like the most screens of like any quarterback in FBS or whatever one year, and it's like you have a quarterback that he walked into the NFL at the time and he had probably a top 5 arm in terms of arm strength. Like him and Mahomes and
I don't even know at that point.
I think that might be it at the time.
I was going to say, I don't know at that point in time. I don't know if many of those quarterbacks still had the arm or if they've shown the arm yet.
Like him and Mahomes and Anthony Richardson and like those guys are on a different level from a lot of people with their arm strengths, in terms of their arm strength. And why is this guy that can gun it deep with accuracy into tight windows, throwing the most screens of anybody in the country? What's going on there?
No, it was pretty pathetic. But we're going to move on to linebackers finally. We'll start with Maason Smith's teammate, new LSU Tiger, former Oregon State. Oh my God, Beaver. I couldn't think of the name. Omar Speights, 6'1", 237. Last year for Oregon State, he recorded 83 tackles, 8 for loss, and had 1 pass defended. So what is the new LSU Tiger bringing down to the Bayou?
Well, hopefully he's bringing down somebody that can help out Harold Perkins. And
speaking of monster,
I'm so excited to see Harold Perkins, when it's his time for the draft. But Speights, what I saw with Speights was this guy has explosive like twitch and downhill. Like he is very fast. He's got great burst to close the gap. He's a very disruptive blitzer, which not all linebackers have. I was a shit blitzer when I played football, to the point where my coach literally never had me blitz. Like he switched to a different like linebacker to blitz. So having a guy that's got the ability to do that is great. And I think he's got some good processing abilities dropping in coverage too. So, that's also not always something linebackers will have. A lot of linebackers will struggle with that kind of stuff. You can see him. He has this violent rip move when he's trying to scrape over the top or go into pursuit to keep blockers off of him. And I think he does a good job with that. The thing that bugged me a lot with him is that there is times where he like just sits and waits too long trying to like see the ball, I guess. And these linemen are already at the second level into him. and you know, if you're waiting that long where the lineman's already worked their way to the second level, you're not going to stop the run at that point. You're going to give up some yardage. So his read and react, his click and close could use some improvement in the run game, but overall, like, there's something there. Like, his burst, his closing speed is special looking to me, even if it's not like testing wise that great. You see linebackers that just get to the ball carrier fast is interesting. So
Yeah.
I think he could really have, if he has a good year, like, he's going to be a day 2 pick. It's hard to say day 1 pick for any off ball linebacker that's not really like overly special, but
especially when you're projecting another linebacker and another defensive lineman probably being the stars of that defense.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to get a lot. I mean, he'll be kind of like, he'll be relied on to do his job. So Harold Perkins and Mason Taylor can do theirs, to say the least. Not in a bad way. It's just he's just gonna have to do all the other dirty work. So those two guys can, you know, really take over games.
Yeah, I like Speights though. I think he's got more potential than what a lot of people may think right now. I guess it depends on who you talk to. Some people aren't nearly. Some people have said to me they think he's a UDFA type of talent, which I do not agree with. But I mean, who knows? I may be wrong. They may be right. We'll see. Got to play out the year.
Yeah.
You know, another guy that is like that is Smael Mondon. Like, there's some people that have him as like a first round talent type of guy, like a top 5 linebacker, and I'm just not there on Mondon. So, you know, it's like a flip flop almost.
Yeah,
but
and Smael's like, I don't know how to describe it, because when I watch that Georgia defense, I mean, he always makes a play when you least expect it, but it's never like he's just popping off. You know, he's not getting a tackle for a loss. He's not getting a sack. Then he's not, you know, defending the ball. I mean, he had 76 tackles, 8 for a loss, a sack, an interception, and a pass defended. So he's been used quite a bit. He's obviously going to be the starting linebacker for Georgia, but it's not that, you know, Roquan Smith, the Kobe Dean, you know, type, you know, staple in the linebacking core at Georgia where he's gonna, you know, all of a sudden pop.
That's another guy there though.
No,
Jamon.
Yeah. He's the guy that will pop.
Guy. But the thing with Jamon is that, or Jamon, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard both directions with that. But the thing with, you know, JDJ is that he's not as athletic as what Roquan was for sure. Because Roquan was a special athlete, and then Nakobe was very fast. Nakobe had played very fast, and he had, from what I can remember off the top of my head, he was very instinctual and process things very fast. Like,
that's where he makes his bread and butter, because obviously he's not the biggest guy, but Nakobe can read an offense like, you know, a quarterback can read a defense, and he knows exactly where to go at every moment. He knows how to read a defender trying to block him as well. So he just sets himself up so well that it makes up for that size.
And that's kind of what Dumas-Johnson is too in a lot of ways, but I don't think he's as good at it as Nakobe was. And Dumas-Johnson doesn't have, you know, I question his athleticism in the sense that, like, I think he's an instinctual player, and I think he's athletic and can play, but I don't think he's going to test as well as people are going to want. And I think it's going to be one of those things where, like, kind of like Nakobe, where he's going to fall farther than general public may think. I know Nakobe's was the shoulder.
But it was also size. Like that shoulder, but he's also a smaller linebacker. But I mean, JDJ is, I think, 6'1", 245. So he's got a little, you know, good meat to his bones. Thick. The thing that I didn't realize is Smael Mondon is actually 6'3", but then 225. Yeah, so he's, you know, a taller but skinnier guy, and JDJ's
he's got that skinny frame. Yeah.
I didn't realize
and Mondon's really good in man coverage, it seems, which is like something you don't really see a lot from linebackers, like being able to play man coverage that well. And like, Mondon's a very good tackler, and like he gets his arms around you, he's bringing you down typically. Like, he does not miss a lot of tackles. The thing is, though, like, I don't know how instinctual of a linebacker he is, and like, instincts in so many ways is so important to playing that position, and that's why I liked Drew Sanders so much last year, because you turn on the tape for Drew Sanders, and even though he was new to the position, you saw him shooting gaps and making plays in the run game that you don't see other linebackers always making, which it in that kind of it's that instincts that separate those guys, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Like, you can play linebacker well without having those instincts, but you're going to end up being a guy like I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was the Falcons player. That was an undrafted free agent. That was a starter for a couple of seasons. Warlow, Paul Warlow.
Warlow. Okay.
Where he
No
was a
wonder you couldn't
starter
remember.
for a few years. He was an undrafted free agent, but he led the league in tackles. But it was
Yeah.
because he was getting tackles 10 yards down the field every single play, because he didn't have that closing speed or those instincts to shoot those gaps and be there before it had already been a game. So when you're not able to play like downhill as much with those instincts to shoot those gaps, it worries me as like how good you're really going to be as a linebacker against the run, which
Yeah.
I want my linebackers to be able to play the run
Yeah.
somewhat, at least, even though
And
today's NFL is not all the way there.
no.
Um,
But to
but
me, like
like,
Dumas-Johnson is more of he's a lot better, kind of coming off the edge or rushing the quarterback. That's where I think he kind of excels. Because every single time I look, he's shooting through a gap. He's coming off the edge on a blitz. I'm not sure exactly how good he is in coverage. But just reading the quarterback, playing that spy position, or coming after him on a blitz, that's where I think he, kind of makes his bread and butter. Personally,
yeah, I mean, Dumas-Johnson, the thing that stuck out to me a little bit was that, like, he does have those instincts, but like his strength at the point of attack, like he gets there, but there's plenty of times where he just can't fight through the block. And yeah, like how much I was
yeah.
hyped and about him
Oh yeah.
for a couple of years now. And then when I finally like watched him and really watched him to break it down, like I hate saying this, but like I was a little bit disappointed because I don't think he was what I thought he was going to be. Which he's still a talented player. Like, I still think he's like a day two pick, but
Mhm.
he just wasn't as a complete linebacker as I had hoped.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes sense.
but
And he still has a whole other year to develop. Him and
yeah,
Smael.
yeah,
So they're both. I think they're both junior. No, I think Smile's a senior. But they can still develop under Kirby Smart. That defense is still going to be great. So I think it's wait and see. But we will move on to our final two
probably
guys. You say
probably the
what?
second best linebacking duo to these two guys.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're probably second best linebacking duo. Because you're number one and number two both run the field in Clemson. You got Barrett Cooper, 6'1", 220, and
Carter.
Jeremiah. Oh, yeah, wow, I can't read. Barrett Carter. And then his teammate Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Man, we are old. 6'1" and 210. I'm just gonna go through these stats because I was writing them down and it was just impressive and it's a mouthful of what all they put up. You got Barrett Carter recorded 73 tackles, 10.5 tackles for a loss, 5.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 8 passes defended, two forced fumbles. And then Jeremiah Trotter Jr., not to get outshined by his teammate, had 89 tackles, 13.5 tackles for a loss, 6.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, one of those for a touchdown, 5 passes defended, and a forced fumble. I am tired just reading all that. What do you see with this, stacked linebacking core from Clemson?
So I'll start with Barrett Carter, who is my number one, and he's kind of similar to the last two major Clemson linebackers,
Mm-hmm.
in Trenton Simpson and Isaiah Simmons. I think he's much better though than Trenton Simpson. At least I was very high on Isaiah Simmons coming out, and I guess I may end up missing on that.
We both were.
But Barrett Carter, he is an athlete. Like, straight up, this guy has incredible range playing the linebacker position, like special range in my opinion. And he's comfortable, like Isaiah Simmons was before him. He's comfortable widening out and playing like against a slot or against a running back split wide or something like that. He's a very good coverage linebacker, from what I can tell from my opinions, and he's got clean footwork coming out of coverage and in coverage and stuff, which linebackers don't always have good footwork in coverage. Like that's one of those things where it's not as natural to a lot of them because they were, they're mainly taught to play the run as young kids. So developing that footwork and coverage and the instincts and coverage isn't something that happens until later on. He takes good, efficient angles because of how rangy he is. And he has good run fits. Like he fits it well. Like he makes a good he makes himself small to give the lineman smaller targets so he can slip through well. The issues with him though is that he's kind of a lighter linebacker at 225. So his stack and shed is rough sometimes. Like if the lineman gets into him, it's not gonna always go well for him. And he's not the most instinctual run defender. So it's almost like he was a safety that moved down a linebacker. And I don't know if that's actually true, if that actually happens to him. But that's like just how he kind of plays linebacker to me almost. But as a true junior with that kind of athleticism at the linebacker position, it's something you can't ignore, and something that he can be a very special off-ball linebacker if developed properly.
Yeah, and like I remember, I went and looked at some of his tape, and because with Clemson, I was kind of only looking at the 2023 guys, and I went back and looked, and Barrett Carter was always around the ball. That's just what I noticed. Anytime the ball was, especially on the ground, but even in the air, he was just always around it. He was, he was finding ways to make plays and finding ways to using his speed to catch up to the guy with the ball. So
it was got the range.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where I was like, to me, he's not the same. Being a Georgia fan, like I always mention, I just thought of I just remember how Roquan used to, no matter where the ball was, you would just see Roquan streaking across the field to get him. And it was just one of those things where I was like, it's just impressive to see that kind of range where you could, come 15, 20 yards away, catch a guy within, 7-8 steps of him running. And it was pretty impressive to see what Carter was doing.
Yeah. And it's funny because moving to his teammate Trotter, we saw Jeremiah Trotter growing up, obviously, and his son is super talented. Everything I was talking about before with Mondon and Dumas-Johnson, how having those instincts are so important at linebacker. Trotter Jr. has those. You see him shoot those gaps to make plays. He's incredibly instinctual. He's incredibly smart. From what I understand, he talks with his father all the time about how he can play better, how he can key on things better, what he can be done to improve those instincts and to read and react faster. And he's very good at it. And the way he deconstructs blocks is very special. You don't see that from a lot of linebackers as true sophomores at the time when I watched this film. He will stack and shed and deconstruct one-on-one blocks better than anybody else in this linebacking class right now, in my opinion. And he can close pretty well. He's got decent closing bursts. The biggest things with him are going to be that he's a 6-foot linebacker, which, some people will take issue with. And then his sideline to sideline speed, his initial burst is not that special. I don't think he's going to test amazing combine wise, which I think people, if they're going into the combine, if you're not up to speed on who he is as a player, I think people will be disappointed. I think that will be a storyline out of the combine, honestly. I could see him running a 4.7 and people being like, what? Like, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is not
Yeah.
that amazing of an athlete? Like,
And
what?
that's the thing, is having that name also is going to be like, what,
Yeah.
like, what's going on here? Like, he's not as good as his dad, and that's going to be a thing. Like, yeah, he might not be as good as his dad, but he's still really good, and it might hurt him just because we always see those athletes that can't live up to their pop's name, and it's just kind of unfair to them in some points, especially like before they can even prove it on the field. Like, if they prove it on the field, then sure, you can say that all you want, but until that happens, you kind of just have to grade him like he's just the average Joe coming out of a random state, not Jeremiah Trotter's son.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, though, instincts are just so important for linebackers, and he has those instincts, and he does so many little things right, in terms of just playing the run and timing his blitzes. Like, he is very good at slowly creeping up or taking like one step, and then while they're in their cadence, as soon as they're about to say hut, like, he's already in a full sprint, like, so it does not give the lineman a lot of time to react. And that's one of those things, like, not every linebacker is automatically good at that. Players that can do that and do it well and consistently well, they have those, like, just small little instincts. It's a small little detail that you don't necessarily think about as being a big deal, but like, when you can do it good every single time, it's helpful. And you take a amazing athlete, put him at linebacker. If he can't do those little things right that Jeremiah Trotter can do, who you really want on the field.
Yeah, I can see that. So just to wrap it up for Clemson, at least, how good that defense is that? How good is that defense going to be?
They have the potential to be very good. I don't know if I think they're gonna end up being that great. I don't know if I think, honestly, though, they're gonna have the same issues they had the last couple of years, where their defense was decent. Like, I know they had a couple games where like their defense did terrible. I think their defense will be decent. I don't know how their offense is gonna really be.
Yeah,
But they
was
got talent.
losing a couple guys in the draft this past year also. But having these linebackers as like your staple is kind of like, all right, let's see what you got.
Even losing people, this team has talent at all three levels on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to try to say his last name, but Rook.
Oh no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know.
Rook
I don't know
on the interior line, dude's good. Tyler Davis,
yeah,
dude is good.
Yeah.
They have KJ Henry. They still have Xavier Thomas off the edge. I want to say they have another edge player that's pretty decent, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. They have these two linebackers. They have Wiggins at corner. They have Makuba at safety. They have NFL. They have guys that will get drafted this coming year at all three levels. It's just a matter of how the rest of the team's going to be.
That makes sense. So that was going to wrap up our 2024 NFL Draft Front 7 defensive preview. So before we go, no stats, no background. Just give me one name that you think is kind of relatively unknown right now, but come, April, or I shouldn't say April, but like January, February, a lot of people are going to, really be talking
about. My name right now for that would be Tyrone Hopper from Missouri. Tyrone, sorry. Florida transfer, plays linebacker. Dude plays crazy, like, fast. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, he is got fluid hips. He's got burst. He's long. He's got great angles. Like, he's so athletic, and he's able to diagnose him. He plays downhill very fast. But he's got kind of an issue with being he misses a lot of tackles, and he doesn't use his hands and his length as well as you might want. But with that kind of athleticism, there's a chance that people will take notice, and there's a chance he's going to have a good year. I think I had him near the bottom of my initial linebackers list, but I think he could rise pretty fast with a good year.
Perfect. All right, so we'll have to remember Tyrone Hooper. So with that, I'm Taylor, and that is Taylor, and we'll see you next time.
one.